September 30th, 1945. 1400 hours. Fellowship Lawn, First Baptist Church, Henderson, Kentucky. The olive-drab 212-ton GMC truck from Camp Breckenridge hissed as it stopped on the gravel, the engine still ticking hot in the early fall air. A line of Japanese women, plain cotton dresses over government-issue slips, some still keeping their hair in tight wartime buns, climbed down under the eyes of two MPs with M1 carbines slung low. The smell hit Nakamura Fumiko first. Black pepper, rendered lard gone cool, a faint sweetness of buttermilk and picnic coleslaw, all drifting from wicker baskets lined with red and white gingham on the folding tables. It was food, American food, but it was cold. Fried chicken, stacked high and golden, the fat congealed to a dull sheen. In Kobe, chicken served cold on a hot day was how people got sick. Here, children ran past with plates, laughing, a USO banner from last year still tacked to the church wall. An older church lady in a lavender Sunday dress waved at Fumiko like they were neighbors. "Don't look so scared, honey," the woman said in a warm, depression-hardened Kentucky voice. "We soaked it in buttermilk. Keeps fine." Fumiko's throat tightened. "It's cold?" she said, the English stiff on her tongue, half suspecting a test, half smelling the pepper and wanting it. The woman smiled, surprised. "Best that way." If you're listening from somewhere far from Kentucky, tell me where. 9 weeks earlier, Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky. 9 weeks earlier, the heat in western Kentucky lay on the parade ground like wet cloth. The troop train had left them at a siding not meant for civilian women, and the Army solved the problem the Army way. 2 olive-drab trucks, canvas tops rolled back, benches bolted along the beds. MPs with white helmet bands and M1 carbines watched as the Japanese women climbed down, one by one, skirts catching on the tailgate. Nakamura Fumiko kept her eyes lowered. The tag on a string at her collarbone said, in block letters, PW, Japanese, FIEM. It was slightly wrong. She was not a soldier, had never worn a uniform, but the stencil made her part of an existing system, and systems were safer than improvisation. She carried her small suitcase, the corners scuffed from too many transfers, and tried not to look at the American soldiers' faces. Camp Breckenridge was bigger than she'd imagined. Long barracks in neat rows, water tower, motor pool where a mechanic in rolled sleeves leaned into the hood of a truck, smell of gasoline and cut grass. From somewhere far off came the bark of drill commands. This was a place built to process men by the thousands. The sight of 20-odd Japanese women in hand-me-down cottons and issue shoes made the sergeant at the gate blink. "Lady POWs," he muttered, half amused, jotting something on a clipboard. "Well, ain't that something?" Fumiko heard the word ladies and stiffened. In Manila, before evacuation, American voices in newsreels had been broad, mocking. This man was only surprised. Surprise could turn to interest. Interest could turn to requests. In her experience, it was better to be forgettable. Inside the wire, the air was even warmer, trapped by the low barracks. An Army nurse showed them to a converted section. Cots with clean sheets, a single oscillating fan, 2 screened windows. It was better than the last place. Fumiko noted that, filed it against the stories she'd been told. On the way out, a supply corporal in khaki spoke to the nurse loud enough for Fumiko to catch. "Local church gal's been asking if they can come see 'em. Might do 'em good. Show 'em we ain't monsters." The nurse shrugged. "Clear it with the CO." Fumiko set her suitcase on the cot and sat, the fans stirring her hair. So they wanted to see them, not just guard them. That was new, and new things were dangerous. They came in a Ford sedan and a dusty Plymouth, skirts swishing, hats pinned, the kind of women who had packed ration boxes for 4 years and were not ready to stop. The MPs at the gate checked their names against a typed list. then waved them through toward the administration building. From the barracks window, Fumiko watched them cross the crushed stone, sunlight flashing on the metal clasp of a big wicker basket. They looked straight at the barracks, openly curious. The army had not warned the Japanese women about the exact hour. A corporal just shouted in, "Visitors, ladies, you all sit tight," as if they were patients. Fumiko smoothed her dress over her knees. Okada-san, older, lips thin, murmured in Japanese, "We should not smile too much." "Of course," Fumiko said. "We are not beggars." The door opened, and hot air rolled in with the scent of face powder and something lemony. The lead woman was tall, late 30s, floral dress, good posture bred by pews and choir stands. "Good afternoon," she said, already smiling. "I'm Mrs. Calhoun from First Baptist. We heard you ladies were here." Her vowels were wide, but the words were clear enough. Fumiko rose and bowed slightly, not too low. "Good afternoon," she answered. "I am Nakamura." "Oh, how pretty," Mrs. Calhoun said, not quite sure whether to shake hands. She settled for pressing her palms together under her basket. "We're putting on a little welcome-back supper for some of our boys. Thought maybe y'all could come help, meet folks, show 'em what we've been fighting for." That last line was for the lieutenant who entered then, hat under his arm, khaki shirt darkened under the arms. "It's been cleared," he said to Fumiko, seeing at once she understood more English than the others. "You can go under escort. It reflects well on the camp." Cleared. Reflects well. Those were army words. They carried more weight than Okada-san's frown. Fumiko translated, choosing careful, neutral phrases. The room tightened. Some of the younger women glanced at the basket, at the American's easy posture. Okada-san said, "We are prisoners. We should not entertain." The lieutenant's jaw moved once. "Ma'am, it's voluntary," he said, though they all knew what voluntary meant in a guarded place. Fumiko inclined her head. "We will assist," she said in English. Now she would have to make it true for everyone else. When the Americans left, the barracks felt smaller. Dust motes hung in the late afternoon slant. The oscillating fan clicked at the far end, pushing warm air that smelled of soap and sun-dried sheets. No one spoke for a moment. The basket Mrs. Calhoun had brought, just sewing notions and some church newsletters, sat on the table like contraband. Okada-san spoke first. "Too friendly," she said in Japanese. "They want to show somebody. Photograph us. Look how kind we are to the Japanese." Several heads nodded. They had all seen Americans with cameras during transfers. Fumiko remained standing, hands folded. "The lieutenant said it reflects on the camp. If we refuse, it reflects badly. We are few here. We should not cause attention." "We already have attention," Okada-san said. "We are women among men. That is enough." A younger woman, Shizue, twisted the edge of her issued pillowcase. "They said supper for soldiers," she murmured. "Will there be food?" All eyes slid to her. Hunger was not acute here, but it was constant memory. Of Manila under ration, of news from home. Even to ask sounded childish. "They will have food," Fumiko said, "but that is not the point." "What is the point, then?" Okada-san pressed. Her gaze was sharp, a school principal's. To smile for the enemy? To forget what they did? Fumiko thought of the lieutenant's damp khaki shirt, of the easy way he had said voluntary. That was how power sounded when it knew it held the gate. "The point," she said slowly, "is we must be easy to manage until we go home. They still decide when we leave." That word, leave, softened some faces. Repatriation was rumor wrapped in Red Cross forms. Go along, and maybe names moved up lists. Refuse, and maybe the lists got reshuffled. "So who will speak?" another woman asked. "You," she added, looking at Fumiko. "You understood her." "Yes," Okada-san said, seizing the moment. "Let Nakamura do it. She already agreed in English. Let the Americans look at her. There was no malice in the tone, only cold practicality. Fumiko felt the heat rise under her collar. Being liaison meant being seen. Being seen meant being judged not only by Americans, but by her own. I will speak, she said. Outside, a truck backfired, making the thin windows rattle. The decision was made, and now it would carry her straight into the American kitchen. They walked her over under MP escort, but once inside the church hall, the soldiers stayed by the door, bored, rifles at ease. The building smelled of floor wax and last Sunday's coffee. Down a short set of stairs was the kitchen. Low ceiling, 2 big windows propped open with sticks, a line of women already working like they had been at it since dawn. Here she is, Mrs. Calhoun called. Miss Nakamura? Yes, Fumiko said, dipping her head. Bless you for coming. We're short hands. Potatoes first. A bowl the size of a wash tub appeared in front of her, full of peeled potatoes sitting in cloudy water. The knives were different, wider, heavier than Japanese paring knives. Fumiko tested the weight, then began slicing as evenly as she could. Around her, English cracked and popped. Talk of the boys coming home, of Ethel's sister getting her man back from Europe, of sugar stamps finally easing. Someone laughed about frying half of Henderson County, and hot, peppery air drifted in from the back where the chicken had clearly been done hours ago. Fumiko glanced that way. On a long counter, wire racks sat with neat rows of fried chicken pieces, drumsticks, thighs, wings, golden but not steaming. A younger American, sleeves rolled, was laying waxed paper over them, cold, on purpose. She forced her eyes back to the potatoes. After a few minutes, Mrs. Calhoun checked her work. My, that's tidy, she said, genuinely pleased. You got good hands. Here, actually. Come help me with the baskets. You can make things pretty. That moved Fumiko to the center table. There the real work of presentation happened. Wicker baskets, each lined with red and white gingham cloth, each getting a set number of pieces, bread, sometimes a jar of pickles. Mrs. Calhoun's fingers were quick, practiced. You fry early, Fumiko said carefully. Then, make cold? Mrs. Calhoun grinned. Sure do. Stays good. Weather's turned anyhow. Stays good, as if cold grease could ever be trusted. Yet the pieces gleamed, dusted with black pepper, not limp. The women handled them with a kind of pride, like hostesses, not conquerors. Fumiko began folding cloth over the chicken. It felt like participating in a logic she did not yet understand. When the rush slowed, the kitchen changed pitch. The loud clatter softened into the steady noises of women who knew they were ahead of schedule. Outside, the sun had climbed. Cooler air from the open windows no longer reached the center table. Fumiko kept folding gingham over baskets, but her eyes drifted to the racks of chicken cooling like disciplined soldiers. Mrs. Calhoun was wiping her hands on her apron. Fumiko took the moment. You fry very early, she said, but you do not keep hot. That's right, Mrs. Calhoun said, pleased to explain. We started before 6. Oil's hotter then. And it's fall now, ain't July. It'll be fine till supper. In Japan, in summer, cold meat can be, she searched for the word, danger. Oh, sure. Summer'll turn anything. Mrs. Calhoun nodded, glad of the shared housewifely knowledge. But we soak ours in buttermilk first, then flour, pepper, little paprika if we got it, crust holds. Long as it's cooked through, good and covered, these'll eat fine. We've been taking chicken to church since before the last war. Before the last war. So it was not invented for prisoners. It was theirs. Fumiko looked again. The pieces were not greasy puddles. They were dry to the touch, the coating still rough where pepper showed. Each basket got a wax paper square laid over the chicken, as if it were precious. Another woman, short, and Mary, said, "Cold chickens for picnics, honey. Don't nobody want to be over a stove all day. You fry, you go. You fry, you go." A rhythm of life that assumed safe roads, calm weather, men coming home that evening. Not air raids. Fumiko imagined telling Okada-san, "They fry early and let it cool on purpose." She could already hear the reply, "They offer it to test us. They want to see us eat from their hand." But there was no malice in the way these women moved. They tasted as they worked. Pinch of slaw, lick of finger, completely unguarded. They were proud of their method, the way Fumiko's own mother had been proud of proper rice washing. She folded another cloth over another basket and admitted silently that the smell made her hungry. The message came folded in thirds, red-stamped, carried not by a smiling churchwoman, but by a camp clerk in shirt sleeves. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, blinking at the flour in the baskets. "Ma'am, one of the Japanese ladies is here, right? Got a Red Cross communication." Mrs. Calhoun wiped her hands. "She's right there. Bring it on." The clerk handed it to Fumiko, like it might break. She recognized the format at once. Thin paper, English on top, Japanese badly transcribed beneath. Her name was correct. The origin line said simply, "Kobe area. Date, August 25th, 1945. She read, "Area suffered heavy damage. Family not all accounted for. Further information to follow. Repatriation being arranged." The words were sparse, neutral, exactly as bureaucrats wrote when the real news was too large. Heavy damage. Not all accounted for. That could mean her sister's house. That could mean nothing left of the school. The kitchen sounds dropped away, like she had been plunged underwater. Her fingers tightened on the paper, smudging grease from the table. "You all right, honey?" Mrs. Calhoun's voice came from too close. Fumiko swallowed. "My city, very damaged," she said. "Family, I do not know." "Oh." The American woman's face softened, eyes crinkling in genuine sympathy. "War's a terrible thing. I'm sorry." It was the same country that had done it, offering sorry in a church kitchen. Mrs. Calhoun glanced around. The other women were busy. She reached for the nearest rack, lifted a wing piece through the wax paper. "Here," she said low, as if this were smuggling. "Eat a bite. You look like you need it." Fumiko stared. The chicken was cool to the touch, pepper visible, crust still crisp where it bent. Her stomach, traitorously, was hollow. To refuse now would be to reject the comfort, but also to signal she was not cooperative. She took it. The first bite shattered softly. Salt, pepper, the tang of buttermilk under the crust. Not greasy, not spoiled, just good. Her eyes closed for half a second. Hunger and sorrow met there, in her mouth. When she opened them, shame pricked. She had eaten the enemy's food on the same breath as learning Kobe burned. "Good, isn't it?" Mrs. Calhoun whispered. "Yes," Fumiko said, and hated that it was true. Lights out had passed, but no one slept. The barracks was a long, breathing animal, cots in 2 rows, thin army blankets pulled to waists, women lying on their sides facing each other across the narrow aisle. Outside, a guard's footsteps crunched past on gravel at measured intervals. The day's heat still clung to the boards. Fumiko sat on the edge of her cot with the Red Cross slip in her hand. She had read it 4 times. Heavy damage, not all accounted for. The words were beginning to blur when Okada-san's voice came from the dark. "I heard," she said in Japanese, low enough not to carry to the door, "that you ate their food." The other shapes stilled. Fumiko did not pretend ignorance. "I was offered," she said, "in kindness." "In kindness," Okada-san repeated, a dry echo, "from the people who burned our cities." "It was one piece," Fumiko said. "I did not ask." She saw that I was upset. "That is how they make pictures," Okada-san said. "First, look, we feed them. Then, look, they are happy with us. You help their story. The accusation wasn't shouted. It was worse, reasonable. Fumiko felt heat rise in her chest. I am trying to keep us in their good graces until we go home, she said. Do you want them to say we are uncooperative? Across from her, Shizue turned on her cot. Moonlight from the small window caught her face. Was it good? She asked, barely above a whisper. Silence fell, sharper than rebuke. Shizue flushed but did not look away. Fumiko met her eyes. This was the true fracture line, not between loyal and disloyal, but between the stomach and the wound. Yes, she said. It was good. Cooked well. Clean. Someone exhaled slowly. Another woman, younger still, said, In Nagoya, before I left, we boiled weeds. That is why we must not forget, Okada-san said, but her tone had lost some edge. Hunger was a language too. They are generous now, but it is for themselves. Then let it be for themselves, Fumiko said. Let them show the world how kind they are. We can still eat. Her hand tightened on the message slip. She was thinking of Kobe's burned wards and of the pepper on her tongue, both true in the same day. Outside, the guard walked by again. Inside, the women lay back one by one, their resentment not gone, only folded, like the gingham over the baskets, holding for now. They assembled on the compacted dirt just inside the camp gate, the sun already sharp enough to make them squint. An MP checked their names against a clipboard. 22 Japanese women, 1 liaison, and another MP stood by the truck, helmet band bright, carbine on his shoulder. The trucks they would ride in were the same kind that hauled laundry and rations, only today the canvas had been rolled up so the townspeople could see. Fumiko stood at the front because that was where the officer called her. Lieutenant Harris, the same one from before, wore khaki with no jacket, tie loosened against the heat. He carried his cap under one arm and a folded sheet of paper in the other. Okay, ladies, he said, projecting his voice like on a drill field. This is a goodwill visit. You'll be on church grounds. You'll have escorts the whole time. You follow their directions. You don't wander off. You don't argue. Got it? Fumiko nodded and translated. Behind her, she heard the soft rustle of cotton, the small sighs. Okada-san's face was unreadable. Harris went on. Local paper might be there. Folks will want to take some pictures. You just stand, smile if you want, don't if you don't. Point is, we show we're treating you decent. That's it. There it was, spoken plainly. They were part of a picture. Fumiko felt, more than saw, the ripple go through the women. Last night's words, they want to show somebody, had been right. She chose a neutral version in Japanese. There may be a newspaper. They want to show good treatment. We can remain proper. One of the younger women whispered, If they photograph us eating, Fumiko said, Then we eat properly. Harris folded his paper. You'll help set up, then you can eat. Don't worry, there's plenty. Folks around here fry like it's their job. He glanced at Fumiko. You did good in the kitchen, Ms. Nakamura. Makes this easier. Thank you, Lieutenant, she said. They climbed into the truck. As it pulled out, she saw 2 local boys on bicycles stop and stare, wide-eyed at the sight of Japanese women riding away from a US Army camp. The performance had begun before they even reached the church. She would have to control not just her own face, but the tempo of everyone else's hunger. Lights went out at 2100. The bulb over the door clicked off, leaving only the faint rectangle from the high window and a bar of light at the threshold where the corridor lamp burned. Outside, the patrol passed. Every few minutes, rifle on sling, boots steady on gravel. Inside, no one slept right away. Fumiko waited until the footsteps faded. Then she said, in Japanese, Tomorrow we do as they ask. A rustle of blankets. You saw the paper, someone said. He said photographs. Yes, Fumiko answered. She sat up, hair loose around her shoulders. They will show we are treated well. That can help us. It can help Japan's people to be received more quickly. Okada-san's voice came from the next cot. It helps America look kindly, not us. It can be both, Fumiko said. If they show mercy, even for their own pride, we can still use it. We will be eating while our cities burn, another woman whispered. How do we show our faces? That was the center of it. Fumiko held the Red Cross slip in her lap, the paper grown soft at the folds. I will take the first piece, she said, in front of them. Then it will not be shame for you. You can say, our interpreter was made to do it. Silence. Then Shizue said, almost a sigh, they smelled so good. Yes, Fumiko said, and they were clean. In the dimness, she could sense some shoulders drop, others tighten. Leadership here was not rank. It was taking on the visible act the others could not bear. They will be watching for defiance, Fumiko added. If they see harmony, they will let us go again. We may get more news, more chances. That, more than food, was bait, access. Access to the outside, to messages, to any scrap from home. Even Okada-san could not dismiss that. Very well, she said at last, but do not smile like a fool. I will not smile, Fumiko said. I will eat. Outside, the guard passed once more. The women lay back, each imagining the church lawn, the smell of pepper, the American eyes. Sleep, when it came, was shallow and full of bright daylight. The trucks rolled up to the church right on 1400 hours, brakes sighing, engine ticking hot in the early fall air. The lawn was already speckled with people, children in Sunday clothes, men in demobilized khaki trousers and civilian shirts, women in light dresses. A USO banner from last year still hung a little crooked on the brick, refusing to be taken down. Tables had been set with folding legs, and on them, the wicker baskets lined with red and white gingham that Fumiko herself had folded. The MPs jumped down first, scanning, M1 carbines slung. Then the Japanese women were helped out, one by one. Heads turned. Conversations dimmed. They were what the town had come to see. Fumiko felt every eye on her. She checked that the others were in a line, neat, hands folded. Okada-san's mouth was a hard line. Shizue's gaze darted straight to the baskets. Mrs. Calhoun came forward, lavender dress, same open smile. Don't look so scared, honey, she said again, exactly as in the kitchen. We soaked it in. Buttermilk. Keeps fine. This time, the sentence landed differently. It was not code for a test. It was just a woman proud her chicken wouldn't make anyone sick. Lieutenant Harris made his little introduction for the crowd. Guests from the camp. Good treatment. Christian charity. And then waved them toward the tables. Cameramen, just local boys with box cameras, hovered, waiting. This was the moment. Fumiko stepped up to the nearest basket. The chicken was cool, golden, pepper-flecked. She could smell the fat and the vinegar from a nearby jar of pickles. She did not look at the cameras. She looked at the older Japanese faces behind her, telling them silently, I said I would. She chose a wing, same shape, same size as the secret one in the kitchen, and took a bite. The crust cracked, still clean, still good. She swallowed. The crowd relaxed a little. A child grinned. One of the camera boys clicked. Fumiko lifted her eyes to Mrs. Calhoun. In English, clear enough for those nearby to hear, she said, May I have another wing, please? There was a tiny pause, surprise, then delight. Well, of course you can, Mrs. Calhoun said, laughing softly, and handed her another from under the gingham. Behind Fumiko, she felt the line loosen, hunger winning over hurt. The picture the Americans wanted was taken, but it was also the shelter she had promised. They were brought back before sundown, the sky over the camp water tower turning a washed-out pink. The truck smelled of grass and frying oil and women's perfume. The MPs seemed relaxed. One even said, "Y'all behaved real good," as they climbed down. At the admin building, Lieutenant Harris spoke briefly with the escorting sergeant, nodded, and jotted something on a form. Successful. No incidents. The kind of line that went up the chain and made later requests easier. In the barracks, the women slipped off borrowed cardigans, smoothed their hair, sat on cots. The day had been bright, too bright, and now the dimness felt like water. No one spoke first. Fumiko set her hands on her knees. "We did well," she said. The officer was pleased. "We did as you said," one of the younger women answered. "You took it first." Okada-san's eyes narrowed. "You asked for more," she said. It was not accusation so much as observation. "Yes," Fumiko said, "because it was good, and because if I did, they would see we were not afraid of what they served." "It smelled good," Shizue blurted. "On the lawn. I thought of Sundays before the war." A few heads turned toward her, but no one rebuked. The memory had come too fast, too honest. Okada-san looked down at her hands. "I saw the children there," she said slowly, "running, fat, laughing. And I thought, ours will not have such afternoons soon." The sentence hung, heavier than any complaint. "That is why we must take what we can." "Here," Fumiko said. "Food, news, goodwill. It does not erase what they did, but it helps us endure it." "They will show the pictures," Okada-san said. "People will say, 'See, the Japanese are happy.'" "Perhaps," Fumiko said, "but people will also see we were fed. That matters too. Mercy shown is mercy recorded." Outside, a truck rattled past. Somewhere, a radio played faint big band music from the NCO club. Inside, the women let their shoulders drop. The worst part, the public swallowing of enemy food, was past. After a while, Okada-san said, almost grudging, "The pepper smelled right." Fumiko allowed herself a small, tired breath. "Yes," she said, "it did." The day's bright humiliation settled into something else, a story they could carry without breaking. The orders came on a gray morning when the air smelled of rain and coal smoke from the rail yard. A sergeant stood in the doorway of the women's barracks with a clipboard and called names in a flat voice. "Nakamura, Fumiko." Her stomach flickered. "Present," she said. "The English automatic now. They were to be processed for transport east, then by ship. No dates guaranteed, but movement was real. Sign here for personal property, here for medical, here to confirm next of kin." The forms were American, squared, typed, efficient. Departure, after months of waiting, felt less like celebration than like being pushed along a conveyor. Back on her cot, Fumiko took out the narrow notebook she had been keeping since Manila. Most pages were filled with small, neat Japanese, dates, transfers, names of officers, what was served for meals. She had started it as a survival ledger, something factual she could show to anyone who doubted her route. Now she turned to a fresh page and wrote, in deliberate characters, "At the American camp in Kentucky, on the day for the soldiers' homecoming, we were invited to a church. They gave us fried chicken, cooled, seasoned with black pepper, covered in red and white cloth. It was clean. We were permitted to eat until full." She paused, then added, "The same country had bombed Kobe." Both things were true. Around her, the other women were packing small bundles, retying hair, straightening dresses for travel. Shizue leaned over. "Will you tell your family," she asked, "about the food?" "Yes," Fumiko said. "If I do not, the story will be too simple." Shizue nodded, accepting that. Outside, a truck shifted gears, heading toward the rail spur. Somewhere an officer was filing the report about the successful church outing, likely never thinking of it again. For him, it had been public relations. For Fumiko, it had been the moment she saw through the single picture of the enemy she had been given. She closed the notebook. When she stepped onto the train, she would carry with her not only the Red Cross slip with its blunt sorrow, but also the memory of a lavender dress, a gingham-lined basket, and the taste of cold fried chicken on a day when she had needed comfort. That was the story she would take back across the ocean.